The Texas sun blazed like a furnace, turning the asphalt of Highway 271 into a shimmering mirage. Dust hung in the air, and the horizon stretched endlessly, barren of trees or shade. A sleek silver Porsche Panamera, a chariot of wealth, sat stalled on the roadside, its hood spewing white smoke like a wounded beast. Inside, Ethan Caldwell, CEO of Caldwell Enterprises, slammed his fist against the steering wheel. His face flushed with frustration. His tailored Armani suit clung to his sweat-soaked back. And his $90 Wurzero Patek Philippe watch ticked mercilessly. 11 46 Permis Norsurs Gerneyerwash. Only 14 minutes remained before a pivotal boardroom meeting in Houston, where billions in contracts hung in the balance. Ethan's heart pounded, not just from the heat, but from the creeping dread of failure. He was a man who controlled empires. Yet here, stranded in the desolate heart of Texas, he was powerless. Stepping out, the heat hit him like a slap, his polished shoes sinking slightly into the softening asphalt. He popped the hood, only to be met with a cloud of acrid smoke that forced him to stagger back. Coughing, for the first time in years, Ethan felt small, like a boy lost in a world too big to navigate. His phone had no signal, and the road was eerily empty. Panic clawed at his chest, mingling with the humiliation of helplessness. Then, a low rumble broke the silence. An old, rust-streaked Chevy pickup pulled up, its engine sputtering as it came to a stop. The driver's door creaked open, and out stepped a woman with a commanding presence. Her name was Lena Harper, a black single mother and mechanic known in the small town of Willow Creek. Her hair was pulled into a tight braid, her denim shirt rolled up to reveal oil-stained forearms. Work gloves hung from her belt, and her brown eyes held a steely confidence that seemed to defy the oppressive heat. Lena's skin glowed under the sun, and her stride was deliberate, as if the ground itself owed her respect. She sized Ethan up, her gaze unflinching, and asked in a flat tone, "Car trouble?" Ethan blinked. Caught off guard, he wasn't used to being addressed so directly, especially not by someone who looked like they belonged in a garage. Not a boardroom His jaw tightened, a mix of irritation and skepticism bubbling up. "You sure you can handle this?" he asked, his voice laced with doubt. The question wasn't just about her skills. It carried the weight of his privilege. His assumption that a woman like Lena couldn't possibly understand the mechanics of his million-dollar machine. Lena's expression didn't flicker. "I run a shop 10 miles from here," she said, her voice calm but sharp, like a blade honed by years of proving herself. Without waiting for his approval, she leaned under the hood, her hands moving with practiced precision. Within seconds, she diagnosed the issue. "Radiator shot. You've got minutes before the engine fries." Ethan stood frozen, his pride stung by her competence and her indifference to his status. She didn't care about his designer suit or his title. To her, he was just a man with a broken car. Lena returned to her truck, retrieving a battered toolbox. As she worked, rerouting a hose to buy the Porsche a few hours, Ethan watched, his discomfort growing. He wasn't used to feeling dependent, and her quiet efficiency unsettled him. She tightened a clamp, wiped her hands on a rag, and said, "It's a temporary fix. You've got 2 hours before it overheats again." Her tone was matter-of-fact, devoid of the deference he expected. Ethan reached for his wallet, pulling out a stack of hundreds. As Lena extended her hand to take the cash, the sunlight caught a glint on her finger, a silver ring with a deep blue sapphire. Ethan's breath caught, his mind reeled, dragged back to a memory he'd buried long ago. At 10 years old, he'd slipped that very ring into the hand of a girl at the Sunflower Orphanage, a fleeting promise whispered under an oak tree. "I'll come back." The ring had belonged to his mother, a keepsake he'd clung to after her death. Now, it was on the hand of this stranger, this mechanic who looked at him with no recognition, only resolve. Where did you get that ring?" he stammered, his voice cracking. Lena's hand closed instinctively, shielding the ring. "It was my mother's," she said, her eyes narrowing. "Why?" Ethan opened his mouth, but no words came. How could he explain that he was the boy from the orphanage, the one who'd left her behind? Guilt surged, sharp and unfamiliar. He'd forgotten her. Buried that promise under the weight of his father's ambitions. His father, Victor Caldwell, Keen, Sarikin III, had built Caldwell Enterprises into a juggernaut, And Ethan had been molded into its heir, sent to Princeton, groomed for power, engaged to Claire Wentworth, a media heiress chosen to solidify a corporate alliance. In that world, a girl like Lena didn't exist, yet here she was, saving him from ruin. Lena pocketed the cash and turned to her truck. If it breaks down again, my shop's in Willow Creek, behind the old mill sign, she said without looking back. Ethan watched her drive away, the dust cloud lingering like a ghost. His chest ached with a mix of shame and curiosity. This wasn't just a chance encounter. It was a collision with a past he'd been taught to forget. Lena Harper drove her Chevy through the dusty streets of Willow Creek, her hands gripping the wheel tighter than necessary. The sapphire ring felt heavy on her finger, a constant reminder of a promise broken long ago. She'd worn it every day, not out of sentiment but as a badge of survival. The boy who'd given it to her, Ethan, though she hadn't known his name then, had been her only friend at the Sunflower Orphanage. They'd carved wooden figures under the oak tree, whispering dreams of a future where they wouldn't be alone. But he'd vanished, and soon after, the orphanage closed, its funding cut by Victor Caldwell's orders. Lena had been shuttled to a foster home, exploited as unpaid labor until she ran away at 15, finding refuge with her uncle, Amos Surmasurich, a grizzled mechanic who taught her to wield a wrench like a weapon. Now, one for none, at 32, Lena was a single mother to her daughter, Zoe, a bright 13-year-old who deserved better than the crumbling town of Willow Creek. The encounter with Ethan had stirred something in Lena, a rage she'd buried under years of hard work and quiet resilience. She pulled into her shop, Harper's Auto, a squat building with peeling paint and the sharp smell of oil. Inside, she sank onto a stool, her hands trembling. The ring wasn't just a trinket, it was a tether to a past stolen from her, to a mother, was sharp as a warkey, Lena Harper, who'd vanished when Lena was 12, declared dead in a car crash. But Lena knew better. A letter, Westonwines Furnoins, received 8 years ago, had shattered that lie. I didn't leave you. They made me disappear. Marianne's handwriting, unmistakable, had fueled Lena's quiet investigation into Caldwell Enterprises. She opened a locked drawer, pulling out a wooden box. Inside were newspaper clippings, land deeds, and a faded map of her family's property, now the site of Caldwell's Willow Rising project, a luxury development. A forged death certificate for Marianne bore Victor's signature, alongside a contract transferring the land to Caldwell Enterprises, claiming no legal heirs. Lena's jaw clenched, her anger a slow burn. Victor hadn't just taken their land, he'd erased her mother, her heritage. What's her home. That evening, Ethan sat in his Houston penthouse, the city skyline glittering beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. But the luxury felt hollow. The sapphire ring haunted him, a crack in the perfect facade of his life. He'd always known his father was ruthless. Victor Caldwell had built an empire through cutthroat deals and political maneuvering. But Ethan had never questioned the cost, not until now. He poured a glass of bourbon, his hands unsteady, the memory of Lena's unflinching gaze, her calloused hands moving with such certainty, gnawed at him. She wasn't just a stranger, she was a piece of his past, a promise he'd failed to keep. He opened his laptop, searching for Willow Creek and Harper's Auto. A local news article popped up. Lena Harper, mechanic and mentor, trains youth in Willow Creek. The photo showed her teaching a group of teens, her smile warm but guarded. Ethan's chest tightened. He remembered the girl from the orphanage, her fierce determination, her quiet kindness. How had he forgotten her? Victor had ensured it, cutting ties to the orphanage, shaping Ethan into a man who valued power over memory. The next morning, Ethan drove back to Willow Creek, his Porsche now patched but still fragile. Harper's Auto was quiet. The bay doors opened to reveal Lena working on a pickup truck. She glanced up, her expression unreadable. "Back so soon?" she asked, wiping her hands. Ethan hesitated, then pulled a small object from his pocket, a wooden bird, its wings chipped, carved when they were kids. "You taught me how to make this," he said, his voice raw. "At Sunflower. I didn't forget you. Lena, I was made to." Lena's breath hitched, her fingers brushing the bird. Memories flooded back, nights spent carving, laughter shared in the shadow of loss. But her eyes hardened. "You promised to come back," she said, her voice low, trembling with old hurt. You didn't. And then your father took everything. My mother. Honhomadin. She pulled a file from a drawer, slamming it on the workbench. This is what he did. Ethan flipped through the pages, his stomach churning. A fake death certificate for Lena Harper. A land transfer signed by Victor. A letter in Marianne's handwriting. Each document was a blow, stripping away the illusion of his father's integrity. I didn't know. He whispered, his voice breaking. Lena's gaze was unrelenting. You didn't know because you didn't have to, but I did do one. And now you have to choose, stay blind, or face the truth. Over the next week, Ethan and Lena worked in secret, gathering evidence. Ethan accessed Caldwell Enterprises archives, uncovering emails and contracts that confirmed Victor's scheme to seize the Harper land, a site rich with untapped groundwater. Lena shared her mother's letter, her voice cracking as she read it aloud. Amos, her uncle, provided old photos and a map, his weathered face etched with grief. Victor didn't just take the land, Amos said, his voice heavy. He took our family. Ethan's world unraveled. He'd been raised to inherit, not question. But now every board meeting, every gala, felt like a lie. Claire, his fiancée, noticed his distraction, her polished smile faltering. What's wrong? Ethan, she asked. Her tone clipped. He couldn't answer. The truth was a weight he carried alone until he stood with Lena. The Willow Rising groundbreaking was set for a Friday, a lavish event with media, politicians, and Claire by Ethan's side. Lena and Amos planned to crash it, armed with their evidence. Ethan, torn between loyalty and justice, made a choice. He forged worker IDs for Lena and Amos, ensuring they could slip backstage. As the ceremony began, Victor took the stage, his silver hair gleaming under the spotlights, his smile a mask of triumph. Willow Rising will redefine this region, he declared, the crowd applauding. Backstage, Lena clutched the files, her heart racing. Ethan joined her, his face pale but resolute. I'm with you, he said. Lena nodded, her fear giving way to determination. As Victor raised the ceremonial shovel, a voice boomed from the speakers, his own, recorded by Lena in a confrontation hours earlier. You think you can fight me? I decide who disappears. The crowd gasped, cameras swiveling. Lena and Ethan stepped onto the stage, holding up the forged death certificate and Marianne's letter. Then, a figure emerged from the shadows, a woman, frail but unbroken, her gray-streaked hair framing eyes that burned with resolve. Lena Harper. The crowd fell silent, then erupted. She's alive, a reporter shouted. Marianne's voice, hoarse but steady, cut through the chaos. I was locked away for 20 years, declared dead by Victor Caldwell, so he could steal my land. Lena's tears fell as she embraced her mother, the sapphire ring glinting between them. Ethan faced his father, his voice shaking with betrayal. You built an empire on lies, he said. Victor's face twisted, but before he could respond, FBI agents stormed the stage, handcuffing him. The charges, forgery, extortion, illegal detention, echoed through the microphones. Curry, and Claire, streaming live to millions, whispered, it's over. Victor, Surya ones. 6 months later, Willow Creek was transformed. The Harper land became Marianne's preserve, a community park and vocational school. Harper's Auto, now a training center, buzzed with life. Lena taught mechanics to single mothers and teens, her voice steady, her smile genuine. Zoe, her daughter, a certain front drew chalk murals outside, her laughter a melody of hope. Ethan, now Ethan Harper, had renounced his Caldwell name, embracing his true roots as Marianne's son, Lena's brother. He ran the Harper Foundation, building shelters for orphans, his once polished demeanor replaced by quiet purpose. Marianne, her legal status restored, sat on the shop's porch, sipping lemonade. The sapphire ring on Lena's hand caught the light. A symbol of promises kept. It held us together, Marianne said, her voice soft. Lena nodded, her heart full. Ethan joined them, his eyes bright with a future he'd chosen. We're not just a family, he said. We're a truth that couldn't be buried. As the sun set, Zoe ran up, hugging Ethan. Tell me about the wood carvings again. Uncle Ethan, he laughed, ruffling her hair. Later, Or was Kid Don Hill. I've got a letter to write to a kid who needs to know they're not forgotten. The sky over Willow Creek glowed, clean and vast. The Harper family, reborn from ashes, stood together, their laughter mingling with the hum of the shop. The ring shone, a testament to justice, was to memory, to a promise that endured. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe to One Kind Moment for more tales of truth and triumph, because sometimes a single ring can spark a revolution.